Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Perkenalkan, nama saya Rista Olymvia dengan NIM L1A119144 dari ruang 001, Prodi KEHUTANAN, Fakultas Pertanian, Universitas Jambi. So, in this video, I want to discuss with you about planning. Yep, after my last video is about nursery, we on to the next steps after nursery is planning. Yep, after the propagation, and finally we have seeds, and we take care of the seeds until they're sprouts, and finally, and now they're ready to be planted on the land. On planning discussion, we have three main topics. The first one is what is planning. The second is the implementation about the planning activities. And the last one is about land and forest rehabilitation. We're on to the first topics. What is planning? As usually, we always have to know the definition first so we can go to the next steps or go to the next part. Okay, so what is planning? Apa itu penanaman? So planning is the activities. What we do is transfer or move the seeds from the seedling area to the planting area, and it hopes that to get the result is the product from the plants that we plant. Jadi pada dasarnya penanaman ini adalah kegiatan setelah pembibitan, di mana bibit yang telah siap untuk ditanam akan dibawa dari tempat pembibitan menuju ke lahan penanaman, di mana nantinya tanaman ini akan ditanam di sebuah lahan yang sudah disiapkan, yang diharapkan akan mendapatkan hasil produksi dari tanaman yang dibudidayakan tersebut. Okay, we're next on to the kinds, variety of planting. So the first one is for planning production. It usually a planning routine based on your schedule. For example, at industrial forests, they already have their own schedule, their land, and everything what they do is based on the routine to maintain the demand of wood supply for the customer. The next one is to reboisation. So this is basically we replant the land that already fault. Means a lot of the trees were cut but not plant back. It can cause a lot of flood and landslide. We don't want it happens, and that's why we do reboisations to replant the land so they can fix their own environment, a better place for plants and another living creature to live in there. The next we have the variety of conservation. Not only animals need to conservate, plants need conservate too. This plant conservation is needed because it will ensure the lifetime of a kind or variety of this plant. If these kind of trees exploitation so badly, they cannot survive if we not rebuild or not replant the tree, and that's why we need a conservation of variety or kinds of trees to maintain their life. And the last one is mining land rehabilitation. We know that mining is a really massive, huge activities that can cause really bad impact for soil and environment. There's nothing the land ex mining is become more fertile than before, because we know to extract all this mine from inside of the earth, they do some activities that can cause bad impact to the soil, reduce their fertilize, and finally it will ruin the environment. So not all kind of plant can live in there. We need plant that can survive, able to adaptation on the desert environment. And of course, we cannot plant mangrove in there. It cannot live in the desert. And that's why we have to choose the right variety of the plant that can live on the desert, really less mineral. So if they can survive, they can save, they can fix, and finally the soil can be more fertile than before, and we can plant another plant in there. So after we know all the kinds of the plants, we knew that every kind of the plant is there for the purpose. It means not one purpose. It means each purpose has their own variety of plant or tree. But we have one main purpose. The main purpose of the planting is to have or receive the good and healthy stands, and they can provide the plants that enough plants for the future, so the plants will not going extinction. It means we need trees, we need plants, and that's why we have to take care of them and not exploitation them so badly, because it can cause bad damage not for them but for us. So there's a few factors that we need to pay attention on choosing the right kind of plants or trees. So the first one is based on the purpose. So the first is you have to know what is your purpose to plant. First, if you want to plant on industrial forests, you have to choose the trees that has highly economic value, so all the harvests can be sold and you can get a lot of income. Second one is the match about these kinds of trees, these kinds of plants, and the environment to support them. For the example, you cannot plant a mangrove on the desert, and you cannot plant a cactus on the muddy soil. And that's why you have to learn, you have to choose, and you have to remember your purpose. What is your plant purpose? And after you know the purpose, you can choose the right kind of the plant, of the tree, so it can match your chosen one, this plant, with the environment, with the land. The third one is the availability of the seeds that you need. So we have to know again the purposes. So we have the purpose. Oh, I want to plant an industrial forest. And the second one, oh, I already choose the right kind of the plant, and it will match with the environment in there. And the third one, where I should get the seeds. Is there still available in a large amount? That's the question. You have to really prepare, and you should be considerate about the availability of these seeds. Is that easy to get? It depends on your purpose and choice of your plan. Well, if there's not enough seats that are available, maybe you have to change your purpose, or maybe you can change your chosen plan. And the last one, you already know how to cultivate the technique. You have to understand everything about this plan you choose with the environment to support it. If you choose for industrial forest, you have to choose really good quality of woods. It has really high economic value because that's their purpose, to get income. Okay, we're on to the next part, the implementations of planning activities. So the first, we have to know all these activities need to plan first, and that's why the first step is the field or the land planning. So the field or this land planning is for determining the area you want to plant, or you make any fence or the limit for your land, which one you want to plant and which one will not. Maybe this place you want to plant and decides you want to build your nursery facilities or any office or any infrastructure to support your planning and etc. The second is land clearing. So land clearing is really important because you need clean, neat and tidy land to plant your seeds. So this land clearing is to clean your bushes, the tree, any tree left in there. Usually you have to use big machine to clean really wide area. Next we have the determinate of spacing. This is really important because the spacing between one to another plant, it can influence their growth. So to start planning, you should put stock or ajir atau pemasangan ajir. You have to do it first before you plant or you put all of your seeds in there. Why you should put the stock first? It can be the sign where you can put or you can plant your seeds. Spacing have three factors. So the first one is the fertilizations of the soil. More fertilize the soil, you can plant more plants because the fertilized soil, it means it contains a lot of nutrients and minerals that plants needs. And when it's available in a large amount, it can provide more or lots of trees than it needs. The second is the variety of plant. So each kind of plant has their own rules of spacing. It's all based on the crown, on their stem, or even their roots. It can't be too tight or too wide. And that's why it has some calculation before you plant or before you put the stock on the ground. And the last one is the tilted level of land. Yes, we cannot plant a weak stem with a weak root on the tilted land. And that's why we have to plant a strong root on the tilted land. Because the roots, it can hold the ground to avoid from the landslide. So this is some kind of the shape of the spacing. We have the rectangular spacing, square spacing, and triangular spacing. This is just for the example. For the implementation, you can choose based on what you need from the spacing and the shapes. Next we have the installations of stock. So the purpose of this stalk was put in there is, the first one is to make a really straight and tidy lines of trees. Because when you plant a tree that really need on the one straight line, it can face your eyes and it's easy to monitor it. Second one is to determine the point to plant. Yep, because when you're ready to plant, you just have to find a stalk on the ground. It means you have to plant there, the sides of the stalk. Do you know why the spacing between the plant is really important? I'll tell you. So the first one, a really neat and tidy spacing. It can make monitoring and make maintenance is a lot easier and give your peace of eyes. Jadi dengan jarak tanam yang teratur itu akan memudahkan pemeliharaan dan pengawasan, serta juga dapat memanjakan mata dengan penampilannya yang bersih dan rapi. So the second one is give enough space to trees so they can maximum the growth of the crown, the stem, and the roots. The third one is to reduce the competition between the trees to get the supplies of water and nutrients from the ground so the trees can grow maximally. The fourth is to reduce the competition between the tree too, but it's to get the sunlight and to fix the air circulation so the stem and the crown can grow healthy. And the last one, it can reduce the probability of the broken tree caused by the strong wind. Next we have soil preparation atau pengolahan tanah, persiapan tanah, where the soil was cleaned with the hoe first, and finally it's smoothed until it crumbly or loose, so they'll be ready to plant. The next is the making of the plant hole. The hole was made next to the stalk. With the size of the hole like on picture, it can be customized as your needs. Depends on the variety of the kind of your plants, of the plants that you're planting. Next we have the seeds transport. So the transport of the seeds must do it so carefully because we don't want to cause the damage for the plant or making the seeds stress, because it can influence the growth of the seeds when it already plants on the land. And the last one, finally, you're ready to plant. So here are some tips or what should you do for planting. So the first, if your seeds was still in the poly bag, you have to take it out first. But remember, be careful, we don't want to hurt the plant inside your poly bag. The second one, you have to keep the soil around the roots on the plant to stay in place. Don't take it off or don't rush it, because the soil it still provides the nutrients and mineral they need, and it helps the trees or the plants do adaptation before plant, and finally they elongated the roots to find more food and nutrients research. And the last, so after you take off the poly bag and keep the soil in place, you can put the seeds vertically in the middle of the hole. Carefully, we don't want to hurt the plants. And finally, you can close the hole with with another soil after you dig. So this is basically the technique of planting the seeds. The first one, ground, is divided in two layers, the A and B layers. So for the A is an organic layer. It contains a lot of organic stuff, organic minerals that plants need. So you have to dig and put a separate between the A layers and the B layers. And after that, you have to put in the fertilizer into the hole. And finally, you put the seeds straight in the middle of the hole. And you cover it first with the A layer of soil, and finally close up with the B layers. Do it carefully and smoothly. We don't want to hurt this little creature. Okay, we finally arrive on our last topics. It's about the land and the forest rehabilitation. So the first, always, what is land and forest rehabilitation? So the land and forest rehabilitation is an effort to restore, to maintain, and to increase the land and forest functions. So the support resources, the productivities, and their role to support the life support systems while present. This land and forest rehabilitation, it means to restore, to maintain, and to increase the function. It's more like to the functions of the forest resources, such as the protection functions, the production functions, and the conservation functions gradually. So these are the management atau penyelenggaraan kegiatan dalam rehabilitasi hutan dan lahan based on the elements. The first one is planning atau perencanaan. Planning is the first step of all. So we have to plan what will we do for this land. What should we do? Who's the people has responsible at this? And what the activities that we do, and how long, how much, what we need. That's all included in planning. The second is the organizer. It means we choose the people with responsibility to make sure this plan was realized in real life, not in this piece of paper. So finally, when you have a plan and you have a people with their responsibilities on a plan, you can start your implementations of the activities. Yep, all these activities were due based on the planning, and do as a plan and don't rush. Keep on the plan. Just make sure everything you do, all the activity you need, you choose, were realized based on the plan, not just a plan in a piece of paper. We need proof. And the last one is monitoring and maintenance. So after you have plans, you have a people working there, and finally you implementation, you realize everything the plan was based on the plan in real life. And of course you cannot leave them just like that. You have to monitoring to keep it in control. And finally you can maintain, or you have a right to make all the plan was clearly realized. So this is the end of my discussion in this video. I hope it helps you, and I'm so sorry if I keep making mistakes on my video, and I hope you enjoy it. Terima kasih sudah menonton, mohon maaf bila ada salah kata. Terima kasih. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.